Yo, what's up, guys? It's Talon. Today we're going to be coaching a Fizz player, really talking about two main things. The first one is kind of in lane, understanding one, lane priority, and then two, ability usage, playing around cooldowns, that type of thing. And then we also talk a lot about side laning as an assassin mid laner in the mid game and utilizing that to get a lot of free gold for yourself and find nice flank angles. So if you guys want to understand how to do those types of things better as a mid laner, or just understand side laning in general, then definitely stick around for this video. There's a couple times where I cut it out just because the video had some of his text messages pop up, so I cut that out at certain times. Apart from that, if you guys are interested in coaching from a rank 5 sovereign autofill player like myself, then just DM me on Discord, Talon1169, or through the link in the description to my Discord server. If you're interested in memberships on my YouTube channel, I also have those for just $5 a month, where you get access to all of the coaching notes from all of my videos and everything like that. But either way, let's get right into the video. I hope you guys enjoy. All right, and you're playing Fizz, or?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I'm maining Fizz mid.
Gotcha. What do you feel like usually are like kind of the things you struggle with, like in general? Anything specific? Or?
So I watched a lot of your content,
Yeah.
and to be honest, I feel like I'm a few steps under the level you're usually like talking about.
Yeah.
I play a lot, but I haven't spent like conscious like learning time. So
So you kind of just play to
I
play more than like finding specific things.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And I wanna start like focusing more on like improving the level of my gameplay. And I struggle with some matchups, like having certain champions against me that usually destroy me. And then there's also like a macro of the match. Usually, at some point after laning phase, I tend to not be sure what I have to do or like what my
What
role
your
is
purpose
or
is? You
how.
gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, like goals.
Yeah. So then I'll just start going into the specific lane phase things here, because I'm assuming harder matchups, so you're probably ranged matchups. That's usually the case for most melee players. Is in general as well, like not the best in the kind of early game. So pretty much like how you approached it initially was pretty fine. Just getting like a trade with third ability and then going away. Even walking up here, you probably could have just let yourself just get XP so you don't get poked so hard here, because he ignited you early, right? And so
Yeah.
since he already used his ignite and you have ignite, you know that you very likely have an all-in opportunity here, because like your health was roughly even. And so say that you played just to get XP here, and then once you hit level 2 you look for an all-in, you'd most likely be able to kill him, or at the very least get like very close and find an all-in angle. So instead now you get very low, so now your opportunity to do that's kind of like limited. And so
Mm-hmm.
the first like kind of general, and then here you use your third ability for no reason. You didn't need to do this because now you don't have it to trade with him or find an all-in angle, when again you have ignite and like equal health even after getting that fruit. So imagine that, right? You didn't last hit, you just let yourself just get the XP from those, so you weren't low. You'd be like, even higher health. You'd have definitely an all-in
Mm-hmm.
angle on level 2. So that was the first thing, like kind of understand. Generally, the purpose as a Fizz in these lane matchups is to find an all-in angle. Not necessarily to get a gold lead early, because you're probably going to fall behind into most range matchups. And then also, I assume you know how Fizz, or how Teemo, the blind works. Because of
Mm-hmm.
that, we would probably want to take our first ability on level 2 rather than taking our second ability on level 2, because again, you're looking for that all-in. The best time to all-in would be able to use your third ability, then first ability onto him or something like that, because you could third ability behind him and then first ability back, so that you don't like have a super negative trade where you're kind of stuck behind him basically. So
Okay,
yeah,
so focus on movement first.
it depends on the matchup. Like for this matchup, the reason is just because of his blind. Most other matchups, you would take your second ability if you're wanting like the max damage, obviously. So it's really just
Yeah.
matchup dependent. But that's why you kind of got to think about how the enemy are going to respond to like what you have to do to them, and then act accordingly. Like here, you don't need a third ability again as well. Like this is not that much damage to you. Giving up all of your pressure. Because, like, I would just say it's so far the main thing is, like, cooldowns for you. Like, you don't really play properly around your cooldowns. So your use of your third ability, one time you used it just to get a minion, that
Mm-hmm.
gave him complete pressure, right? Because once that third ability's gone, there's not really anything that you can do to him. And once his first ability is gone, you can go on him for free. So if you wanted to dodge this, you could dodge it, but you shouldn't dodge it backwards. You should dodge it straight on him. Like you should third ability onto him, right? Because then you don't get hit by his blind. You can get auto attack WQ, or well, actually you can hit your W while you're queuing, so you can do that. Are you aware of that, by the way, just on Fizz?
What do you mean?
Like if you use your second ability as you're using your first ability, you get the damage from your second ability just by hitting your first ability onto someone.
Okay, yeah, I don't think I knew that.
Yeah, so that's something to keep in mind. It's kind of a weird thing. So yeah, you can do that. So basically, like as your third ability on them, you click your second ability, then you first ability through them, you get like really high damage. So you can third ability behind him after he blinded you, right, to dodge the blind. Even here, right, you just got blinded again. It's kind of the same thing. Like once people use spells, don't now run away, because what happens if he uses all his spells on you? Now he gets to blow everything on you for free and then wait for it to come back off cooldown. But if you trade with him when these abilities are like on cooldown, right, because he just used them, then he's not going to do much to you, right? So even though he might still win the trade, right, he uses his first ability. That's his main source of damage, because he only has this, and then his like third ability dash, like auto reset. He's not really going to have much. So you just third ability on top of him, like go behind him here. Then as you're going behind him, activate your second ability and then first ability through him, and then you'll end up back here so that he's not going to be able to like run you down. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. And so yeah, again, the general thing would just be playing around cooldowns. And so here again, doesn't really make the most sense to look for an all-in opportunity for a couple of reasons, right? So it's fine to look for an all-in opportunity because that's what your champion does, right? But what is the point of doing it right now? There isn't a point, right? What you could do, you look for an initial trade. You go use third ability onto him, you do what I just said, right? Then he's half health. Well, now you look for an all-in opportunity because you have 2 spell rotations, whereas here you're trying to one-shot him with 1 spell rotation. You haven't recalled yet, I don't think. So you still don't have mana boots. You don't have the actual amount of damage. And you also flash for no reason, because your third ability would reach him here. So what's even the point in flashing, right? Like, this is a waste of spells. So we need just better spell utilization and understanding of cooldowns. And again, play more for the all-in opportunities in times that make sense. For example, again, after you've already gotten 1 trade on him, like there's no reason you couldn't have tried to trade with him here and then waited for your next spell rotation. There's no reason that you couldn't have first found a recall after pushing a wave and then look for an all-in when you have your mana boots, you know, when you have your actual power spikes. So trade more around power spikes and cooldowns, and that's kind of the main thing to keep in mind early game. And then again, understand the purpose of your champion is to all-in people early on, which means that you don't need to get every last hit. If you miss a couple, that's fine. The goal is really to kind of just create that opportunity to all-in them and then kind of snowball from there.
Yeah, this is tragic.
Yeah, I mean, this again, keep in mind, like, had we not wasted our flash in that situation where we didn't need it, we might have a flash for here to kill him. Like, these types of things are obviously hindsight, but something to keep in mind as well.
Yeah, for sure. What are Fizz's power spikes?
Yeah, so Fizz's biggest power spike is obviously level 5. You have the all-in opportunity. But basically, anytime that you get an item that's going to give you a bunch of damage for the state of the game. So say that you get a solo kill early in the game, well then mana boots are a huge power spike because you're going to hit mana boots before they hit either defensive boots or also hit mana boots, right? So like it's also about the time that you hit it. So obviously anytime you hit a full item, that's a huge amount of extra damage. Anytime you hit your boots, that's a huge amount of extra damage. Level 5 is a really big point of damage, and then level 3 as well because you have your full combo. So I would say in terms of levels early game, 3 and 5, and then anytime you hit mana boots early game, that's like the big power spike. And then yeah, anytime that you finish an item after that is a pretty big deal. And again, right, we're going for an all-in, and maybe you have the damage. I don't actually know the limits of your champion that will. Looks like we don't. But again, there's no reason we can't try to at least get some type of trade on him and then go for the all-in afterwards. Same thing as we spoke about before. And if you don't know the limits of your champion, then that's fine for you to try to one-shot him, right? Because maybe you just don't know, now you know. But obviously this is something that eventually we'll have to kind of understand whether or not we can actually kill from that range. And here you should just go for the wave first and then go towards drag after.
Okay.
And yeah, continue to feel free to ask questions too if you have like more questions or anything. The general thing that I do is just I'll talk about all the small mistakes and everything during the replay, and then we'll write out notes at the end, like to kind of summarize everything. And then here I'd probably just want to start going top turret, because you just push the wave. There's no wave really coming. You guys are getting the Herald, and the enemy obviously we're all just bot side. So I would just hard go top side here, because you like as soon as you push the wave, right, you have about say 20 seconds to do something. And you're not really doing the best in lane right now. It's not going the greatest. So you might as well try to create some type of advantage, get yourself a bit of extra gold. Then you'd be in that fight right now, right, with your team. And the Teemo would only just now be pushing this wave under the turret. As we can see, like he just got it under the turret. And so he'd maybe get a plate or two. He doesn't push turrets very fast, so it's not very scary. Say it was like a Jace, you know, maybe we want to stay to make sure that the turret doesn't get pushed and be more aware of that. But once you push a wave right away, it's really important to try to use that opportunity to try to find an opportunity to roam rather than just kind of waiting for the next wave to come. Because you kind of just push the wave, then you just wait for the next one. Try to utilize the time that there's no, you know, wave in the mid lane to make plays, to rotate, to do other things like that.
Okay, so basically the roaming depends on the matchup and how dangerous it is to leave the champion alone.
Yeah, for the most part. That, and then again, yeah, the waves. Because again, even if you're leaving a Tristana in mid lane, if there's no wave, well then it doesn't matter. She's not going to push your turret because she can't. So we still need to try to get to take advantage of that when we can, but you're 100% correct, yeah. Yeah, your champ also pushes turrets really quick, so that's like the nice thing too, is that you can look for a lot of times. Again, if you'd roam topside there, you get the turret very quick. I mean, your team had the ensemble anyway. And then again, this is just not thinking about how the enemy are going to respond to you. The same thing as before, right? Where, how's Teemo going to respond? He's going to blind you. When he doesn't have blind, you go use your full combo, right? Now, what is a Master Yi going to do if he's not the worst player on the planet? He's going to Q you as soon as you go. Like, you know, you're never going to just kill him under his turret because he has a way to respond. He also has his second ability, which would give him a bunch of damage reduction, and you wouldn't kill him anyway. So you basically have no actual way of killing this guy unless he forgets that he's allowed to click buttons, which, you know, that happens sometimes, but we're not going to bank on that happening. And so we just need to be thinking about how they're going to respond. That's really a simple thing. And then also, you didn't need to flash, you know. You could have just first ability'd onto the minion, and you'd be fine. But yeah. That, and I'd say you panic a lot with your third ability. You use it a lot, like way too much. And again, I would just say, thinking about enemy cooldowns, and if you don't understand how a champion works, then you need to start, you know, looking up videos on that champ, or especially, like, I would say mid lane matchups. Like, if there's a champ you lane in mid lane, you don't know how it works very well, which that might be the case, or you might just not be thinking about it, you know, whatever is the case. But if you don't know how it works very well, look up a video on that, try to figure out just the basic abilities, or just go and read the abilities, you know, these types of things. And then now we're in a situation... Yeah, go ahead, sorry.
No, you go ahead, please.
So now we're in a situation where our team is doing the classic Emerald strat of everyone goes mid lane and does, you know, they just try to fight 24/7. And Fizz loves when that happens, because you're one of the best side laning mid laners in the entire game. Like, you have great escape with your first ability, right? It's very easy to escape. You have absurd turret damage because AP champions do really nuts turret damage, like when you have an AP ability, so your second ability one-shots turrets. And then there is a low tier 2 turret right here and a wave pushing towards there. So as you see your entire team come towards mid, especially when you're behind, you can be completely happy to let your team do that and just go to a side lane. Try to take advantage of the fact that you can push those waves out. And when there's no objective up, you don't even have to be that worried about dying. If there was an objective spawning, say, within the next 30 seconds, obviously in that case, you're going to have to be a bit more, like, you know, safe on the side lane. But in a situation like this, you could have just gone straight to that top lane. You could have pushed the top lane, but you need to keep in mind a lot of times you want to save your third ability when you're on the side lane so you don't just get caught randomly, unless you know you're just trying to clear the wave and leave. And then use the fact that you have your third ability up to potentially even outplay someone if they do catch you on side lane. Instead, you're just fighting, again, in mid over and over. And so now your turret's getting pressured on top side, where it very likely may die if Vayne was, you know, playing properly. But yeah, just that thing. Just keep in mind your champ's actually a god tier side laner. Anytime you fall behind in the game, especially, be really, really like looking for as many opportunities as you can to just pressure the side. Because if they leave you alone for 5 seconds on a turret, if you have Lichbane, I don't know what exactly the builds you're going here, but you're gonna one-shot a turret.
Yeah, Lichbane is usually my first thing.
Yeah, so you're gonna be one-shotting a turret. I don't know why auto-aimed your, or did you? That looked like auto-aim with your ultimate, no? Like, that was weird.
Yeah, my ultimate just like flew like randomly away. Yeah, it happens sometimes. I don't know why. because I don't use direction for the ultimate usually. So I just
Gotcha.
like push the button and it usually works pretty well. But sometimes it just like randomly shoots
Gotcha.
to
And
yeah.
so there's a couple
That's
things
it's
as well
weird.
about this situation. So the first one is, if we look at the current map state, and I know you can't see Master Yi obviously, but you can see all these people.
Yeah.
Dragon is spawning. Generally, something to keep in mind as well as a mid laner. You like to side lane on the same side as where an objective is going to spawn. Now, Fizz can side lane either side because you're a good split pusher, so it's okay to be on either side. But when an objective is about to spawn, especially a dragon, it's actually really nice to go through the bottom lane here. The reason it'd be really nice to go through bottom lane here initially is, one, because you get this, that looks like 3 minions, that's 4 minions, that's 7 minions, it's probably 400 gold, right? For free. And then you might be thinking, well, I want to make sure my team wins the fight right before the dragon, because that makes sense,
Yeah.
right? That's what you want to do. Well, what are Fizz's strengths? One-shotting people, assassinating people, finding flank angles, destroying squishy champions. Your strength is not, I walk into a fight straight when everyone can see me and they magically just forget I exist. Like everyone sees you. They're not, and again, unless they're really, really bad, they're not just going to die to you for no reason. And so when you go to the side lane initially, what you do is, one, you make people potentially want to come to you, which again, we spoke about how you have really good escapes. You have a lot of ways to escape and everything like that. But two, if they just continue to fight here mid lane, again, as much as I know our teammates do suck in Emerald, I wouldn't imagine your teammates all die here in -2 seconds, most likely. And so what ends up happening is the enemies start to, go onto your team. They try to fight, whatever happens, people get poked out. Now you've cleared an entire side lane, gotten yourself a guaranteed amount of gold. Now you have an angle to go straight through, their jungle or through this river and create a flank opportunity. So now it's really easy for you to pincer them between your team and to find opportunities on people who were fighting and are low. So you don't need to be so worried about immediately going straight towards the mid lane and fighting with your team, because usually you're just going to end up sitting here, doing nothing, as we can kind of see, occurs.
Yeah.
And so instead you could have been getting, again, guaranteed gold value on the side lane, which matters because this objective is not like game losing, right? It's just a second dragon. At the end of the day, if your team all do die on it, obviously we're not going to be happy about it, but we don't mind. Like, it's not the end of the world. And so maybe if this was Elder Dragon, yeah, you go mid right away because you got to guarantee your team doesn't die. Most other cases, you can read that side lane first because you're still going to be able to find a flank angle. Usually you're going to find a better angle for the fight anyway. So utilize vision better, be more aware of the side lanes in the mid game, and when you're coming out of base, always kind of ask yourself the question, where is like the biggest uncovered wave, and that type of thing. And then here again, same kind of thing in terms of cooldowns. I think you just use your third ability, right? We just use our third ability. That is pretty much Fizz's, main ability that kind of matters when you go in. Like, you pretty much need that. You almost never go in unless you can, one-shot someone. And then you go, without your third ability, into a Leona. Now, again, maybe you just think they're the worst player on the planet, and I'm sorry for being a little sarcastic. It's just, I'm usually like that.
It's okay.
But
yeah.
Obviously, Leona is just going to click first ability on us and stun us, right? Like, there's no other thing that would happen. And so, of course, I imagine this is just autopilot. Like, I do it, I play autopilot sometimes. I don't really think about what I'm doing. And that's all I can really, imagine this is to justify that, right? We go onto a tank who has CC when we don't have our ability to respond to that. And then we end up doing pretty much nothing in that fight. So I would say, again, it's kind of the similar thing with cooldowns. Is one of the main things to keep in mind for, like, your lane phase and your team fighting, just keeping track of cooldowns a lot better. And then if we're utilizing side lanes better, we're going to not only get a lot more gold onto ourselves, which obviously makes our damage way higher, but we're also going to be able to find better angles into the fights. Because pretty much all of these fights, you're going in, like, front to back is what we call it, which is basically like your tank is in front of you, or your frontliner is in front of you, in this case, like Lee Sin. You're right behind him, and then you just go forward, and it's just like whoever has more damage is just going to win the fight. But if you create these flank angles, you can find, the more important targets. They're not going to be able to respond to you as quickly, all those types of things. So.
Okay, got it.
And then again here, I'd go bot side because I want to get that guaranteed bot wave. Instead, you go mid. Now, why does it not make sense to go mid? It's not really bad. If you go mid, you go bot right after, I'm fine with it. But going here, obviously, again, someone's going to come, and your team was already here. So your team was already here. They could already catch this wave. If you really wanted to just go get the wave yourself, I don't really mind. But then you should just go bot after to get that guaranteed gold under yourself. Push that out. And then what does that do? It makes the enemy have to respond, right? So now the enemy would have to go there. You also could have just W'd the turret instead of trying to fight. If you did want to go here. But then the enemy have to go bot side, right? And once they go bot side, now you get to go towards mid after that wave is pushed. Now you create a 5v4. Instead, we had a 5v5 here, right, where everyone is there. You might as well try to use those side lanes to draw other people to you, and then start going towards helping your team once those people get distracted on other parts of the map by the waves and stuff like that.
Got it.
Here, I'm happy that you actually went bot side for once. Like, this is exactly what I'd want you to do, because you, like, look how quick you cleared the wave too, right? We're one-shotting the wave. We have so much time. I'd go on one more wave, which you do. Again, perfect. This is exactly how I'd want you to respond. And the nice thing is, a lot of times you find an ADC here. So this is why sometimes I like not using our third ability. I don't, like, hate it. Not the end of the world. But just imagine, right, you don't use your third ability here. You have flash up. Miss Fortune shows up on your screen in 2 seconds, and you try to one-shot her. Even if you end up dying afterwards, you're drawing everyone to the opposite side of the map, and you're definitely going to one-shot her unless she has stasis. Maybe she has stasis. I don't know. I haven't looked at her thing. She does, but even here, right, you're just going to be able to, you get her stasis out. Like, we're happy with that too, right? And now you see how everyone's being drawn to you, and this is what happens to an Emerald. They get really panicky when they see people on side lane. They don't know what to do.
Okay.
So enemy jungle came to you, right? Enemy support came to you, enemy ADC came to you. Now your team gets a 4v2 on top side. They kill someone, and now you can pretty much do Baron for free if your team is smart. And if your team is not smart, you guys still got to kill for free, right? So either way, we're pretty happy with the situation. And again, just utilize these waves a lot more. Like, play around waves. Just kind of understand the game basically revolves around waves and objectives. Those are what matter, not necessarily random fights. And so again, you go and you get this wave here first. Then you go for the fight, just like you do perfectly here. This is a perfect response. And then the issue comes with the fight again, right? We go on to... You have your flash. You have a double kill here, by the way. Third ability, you know how to third ability flash combo?
Yeah.
Okay. So, like, this is just clear target priority, right? Leona, obviously very tanky, has her W active, which, if you don't know, gives her a bunch more resistance. She probably has, like, 200 MR right now. Depending on her build, maybe a little less. But most likely, like,
what's MR?
Magic resistance.
Okay.
And 200 magic resistance would reduce your damage by 66.67%. I think.
Okay.
Maybe 75, I think it's 66. So a lot of fucking, you know, a third of your damage is even actually being dealt to her. Now, these people probably have 50 to 75. That's reducing it by like 35 to 40%-ish. So half of it's being reduced, and they're way lower health, and they're more valuable because they're actually dealing damage here. And you could easily kill them both, right? So it's just a target priority thing. Usually keep in mind the Squishy's positioning in fights. Don't just go straight on to Leona. And another thing you could have done, right, if we talk about another mechanical approach you could have had to this, if you prefer, you could first ability through her to get into their back line, and then third ability on top of these people, again, which is what you do, right? You first ability, that's a very free angle for a kill. You didn't even probably need to flash in that case. Both people are dead, and you're just absolutely carrying the fight. So target priority, keeping track of the Squishies a lot more in fights. And the patience, again, because you don't need to go on the front line at the start of the fight. You're fine with sometimes literally waiting until your entire team ends up dying, depending on the circumstance, and cleaning everyone up. You know, usually, obviously, you're not going to wait that long, but it's more about, you know, just have that patience in the fight, wait a bit longer. And again, here, we might as well go top side first. Not really a reason to go mid right away. Look at that top wave, right? If you get that top wave pushing, now they're inhib, right? We just killed 4 people are dead right now. Actually, 5 people, but they're obviously about to respawn. But say that you went to top side right away, you could probably hit that turret, or at the very least, make them have to go, you know, top side and respond to it. So just, that would be free gold for you. Probably denying them some gold, potentially getting a turret, getting better pressure, all those types of things. And then this is maybe a throw. Honestly, I just get off. Yeah, I think you should just get off. Like, we don't know where their jungle is. Kind of scared.
Yeah, they were both, I think, pinning like, let's do Baron, like attack Baron. So I thought we were immediately going there. That's what I think happened there.
And that's fine if your team actually went to it, but you just started tanking it yourself, right? And so even if they ping you, you can see on your screen what's actually happening, right? And they're not here. You're losing half your health. Okay, at least Sin misses first ability. That's pretty funny. But either way, again, things like this that we need to understand as well about Baron, if we are going to start a Baron, is like, you're not the most important person to be just hitting the Baron 24/7. It's fine sometimes for you to get a little bit of damage onto the Baron with your team to hit it when you have nothing to do. But like, don't use your third ability on Baron, for example. And obviously, I understand this seems like hindsight, because I can see that you just died to a Misfortune ultimate. But it's very likely that the enemy, when they're all alive, are going to respond to the Baron in some type of way. And you can easily go over the wall and one-shot them. Like, say you did keep in mind that the Misfortune could potentially be here, or even Master Yi or whoever, you get a ward over the wall or you try to zone them, you can easily, you pick them off, and then we're not going to be in such a dangerous situation. But if you just sit here and kind of let them, like, flip like this, these are the types of things that can happen. So I would just say, just generally, when we're doing objectives, keep in mind, having a ward over the wall or trying to jump over the wall, keeping your third ability instead of, again, using all your abilities, and then you basically make yourself very vulnerable.
Yeah. So basically, the main mistake I'm making mostly is ability management.
Yeah. And that makes sense because we're playing an AP champion. Most AP champions are very heavily based around their abilities. So, yeah, 100%. Like, if you want to make it very broad, that's 100% it. And then it kind of manifests in a lot of ways, because sometimes it's keeping track of enemy abilities, sometimes it's your own abilities, that type of thing, and your target priority, like with your abilities. All those types of things are pretty common mistakes. And then, like, more like in terms of where to be later on in the game is not understanding side lane well enough, not going on side lane, staying too long in mid lane, and then that makes us, again, playing a lot of front to back fights when we'd rather be able to find a lot more flank angles later on in the game and everything like that. Do you care if this is in the YouTube video, like the Twitter pop-up? Do you want me to edit that out, or?
That's okay. I don't mind.
Okay.
I think there's a video where I got a message and accidentally like tabbed to my WhatsApp.
Okay, then yeah, I'll edit that part out. I'll just pause
Yeah,
the
if you can
recording
edit
when
that.
when that comes up, so that I know when to edit it. And yeah, like, I like, for example, when you do something like this, like, you kind of see, this is sort of the vision I'm trying to, like, get in your mind, right? You push out a side lane, and now you just have a different angle into a bush, because you have a lot of ways to escape with your third ability. You're never really going to get one shot and just caught out. So, like, just sitting here is exactly how I like you approaching the fight. You can even go into this way. Yeah, exactly. Like, this is exactly what I would want you to do to approach a fight. The only thing I wouldn't do is use my third ability here, just because there's a small chance you get caught, right? On that brief timer where it's dead. But, like, everything here, and just, again, I would just sit in this bush. Yeah, I'll make sure to edit that. And yeah, I mean, we just get Elder here, so it's good. And again, you can see, like, you don't really need to be on that immediately. Again, it works out fine. Usually that's how it is. As long as you're on the side lane or just zoning people off like that works well enough. Then I imagine you just end here.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll go into the other game, and then, yeah, we'll write out notes afterwards.
Cool.
Do you ever play Fizz jungle? Just curious.
Yeah, I do. When I get jungle, I usually pick Fizz.
Okay, yeah. I like Fizz jungle. I don't really play Fizz much, but he's really fun. I do like playing him when I do play him.
Yeah.
And so this is good. This is a melee.
I've never seen. I've never seen a video of yours playing Fizz.
Yeah, no, I don't play him frequently. Just kind of like for fun. Never a champ. I'm like super. Yeah. So here, I'm assuming you started second ability. Nope. Okay. So I would rather you start second ability in a matchup like this, in a lot of melee matchups. It's, you could debate what you prefer. If you feel like you can have, like, if you can find an all-in angle, like, if you play the matchup and you determine I can use whatever ability to respond, I'm fine with you doing that. The reason I would really like to start my second ability here, one, when he walks up for this, he either has to use his first ability on it, or he has to auto it, right? And if he autos it, you're going to get the splash damage from your second ability. If he doesn't auto it, you're going to get the reset on your second ability, and you're going to be able to get prio, and then find a potential, like, good trade on level 2, because there's this one trick Fizz, who's like a sovereign Fizz one trick, and Fizz Knob is his name. Every time I watch him play in my lobbies into low elo players, he will first blood them on level 2. Like, it is absurdly common that he first bloods people on level 2, which shouldn't happen because it's Fizz. It's not that good. Like, early, it shouldn't be. And so you really need to be aware of these level 2 opportunities to potentially create. And so I would say using your second ability is good. But if you are going third ability, that's fine. You can do that. But what we need to do, we need to respond to abilities properly. And so we need to try to react to her third ability and like dodge it, right? So you need to be like, okay, obviously she's about to go for the minion. It's very straightforward. And so as she's doing that, you need to try to dodge the ability or wait for it to come out and then go on her. One or the other. Doesn't really matter. But you can't be getting hit by this ability right before your third ability. Whatever happens, that can't happen, because then she's gonna get her like better auto, and she's just gonna win the trade really easy. So again, do you know how quality works? Just want to make sure.
I do, yeah.
Okay, so then yeah, so you understand what I mean, right? Because now she gets the big auto on you. This trade is bad.
Yeah.
This trade is
Yeah.
great if she doesn't get the first Q on you, because now she's only able to get 1 Q as you're going out, and you're like perfectly fine. And now we also lose Prio, right? So you can see we didn't
What's
get
Prio?
Prio is the lane push. So basically, whoever has more minions, like pushing, generally has Prio. So because she has level 2, she's pushed up in the lane, and she has more minions pushing into you, she has Prio. The reason it's called Prio, for priority, basically means they have priority over the decision making in the lane. So she can push the wave quicker. She has control over the wave. That can allow her to rotate first, to recall first, to do whatever she wants. Does that make sense?
Got it. Yeah.
Cool. And so yeah, we need to be a lot more aware of that. And then same thing here, right? We use our third ability, we don't get any value from it. What's the maximum value we can get from the spell right now? Blocking an ability, right? So blocking the first ability. Instead, you jump straight on it because you really want a singular minion, which is, right, I think you get 16 if you don't hit it, and you get 40 if you hit it. So you're getting 24 gold for this play. So let's determine, do we think this is worth 24 gold? Okay, she sucks. If she didn't suck, she gets damage onto you. She still gets damage on you at the end. Like, is this worth 24 gold? Maybe, you could say. But the only reason it'd even be maybe worth is because she sucks, and even then we still lost the trade. So like, regardless, not really that worth going down in that trade just for a little bit of gold, because then we even get zoned off this minion later because we lose the trade, and so then it kind of still puts us in a similar position. And then another thing again is cooldowns, where I'll go back in, right? She used her second ability. When is the last time she used her second ability? Trying to pay attention. I don't remember exactly when. I guess I'll just make the point generally. But when she uses her second ability, once it's gone, that's when we want to trade. We don't really want to trade when it's up. So we just want to keep in mind whenever that ability is up, we can start to make more aggressive trades. That's really, like, that's exactly how I kind of want you trading. Yeah, like, this is perfect. I really like this. The flash makes no sense, but everything else was good. And so you can kind of see, right, when you're able to respond to an enemy ability with your third ability blocking it, you nullify a third of their kit at this point because they only have 3 abilities. Obviously, if that happens, you're able to find these all-in angles. And so you nearly had an all-in angle there had you not, like, kind of panic flashed. You even potentially would have been able to. And then here, the problem is, again, we don't block anything with this ability. And we go in when she has her second ability up, so she can kill you for free. So it's, again, the same cooldown thing, and it ends up being not too bad. But it's still, like, in terms of how we approached it, not really trying to get max value out of our abilities. And once you do not get it, you could just back off with your third ability. You don't need to go for an all-in because you know she has her second ability up, so she's going to be very hard to kill, like, in that type of circumstance. So again, it's the same general point, right? Just in a different, like, hue. You know, now we see it in this matchup versus into a ranged champion. But ultimately, it comes down to the cooldown. So cooldowns and then prio, which again is getting them, like, main use of prio in the first couple levels is to get a level advantage. So you want to be the 4th minion of the first minion wave will give you level 2. Depending on how long it's taking you guys to kill that, sometimes it's the 3rd minion of the first minion wave. But just generally, you need to keep track of you know, how close you are to the level up, and then play around that level up really hard to kind of get better trades, because obviously if you have an extra ability, it's going to be really easy to trade. So that's going to be the other main thing for you to keep in mind.
Yeah, I usually, when I play top, I play Renekton, and he's very clear on that. Like, when you have level advantage, it makes a huge difference.
I would say Fizz is equally, if not more, effective at using that, 100%. And again, a lot of panic at third abilities from you. You know, this one, again, didn't make sense. And say you still had your third ability up here, you're, like, really punishing her hard. Instead, we kind of don't have it until the end, and so then that's a little unfortunate the Galio comes, but I'm pretty sure you wouldn't have killed anyway. Would have been close. But again, yeah, just kind of the same thing, so. And also, again, another thing about prio is, say that you are having prio, this allows you to crash the minion wave under their turret first. Crashing it means, and again, another panic flash made no sense, but again, crashing the wave means, like, pushing it under the tower so that, you know, it goes under their tower and they have to clear it, whatever. say that you crash third minion wave, you'll have enough gold for mana boots if you last it well. If not, you have to crash the fourth one, then you get the gold for mana boots. But basically what I'm saying is you want to be playing a lot more around your item cooldowns as well, your item spikes. Because you're going for a lot of all-in opportunities when you haven't really recalled for mana boots or you haven't gotten proper items. And then you're kind of just a lot weaker. So keep in mind that those item spikes actually matter a lot for deciding whether or not you want to all in. But yeah, that's just another thing to keep in mind.
Cool. Yeah, what I usually do is I try to let the champion push and just like last hit.
Yeah.
To create the space to all in with my ult.
And that certainly is a fine approach in some matchups to like let them push into you. It totally depends on the matchup, right? Like I said here, you had an opportunity level 1. Either I think honestly maybe you just take third ability. If you respond properly, you can get prow. But either way, this is a matchup where I do think level 1 you can get the push and play around that level advantage. But in certain other matchups, say for example you're playing into a Jace, maybe you're going to have to let him push into you early. So it completely depends on the matchup for how you're going to approach that. But yeah, no, I definitely think that's a fine approach in a lot of matchups. And here they do have a pretty hard comp for you to play into. So in the later fights, we should be pretty hard targeting the Misfortune rather than any of these tankier champions. And again, also, these two games, I don't think you have roamed once. So that's something to keep in mind as well. Like, after we push a wave like this, for example, is when we should roam. Hopefully you do it here. You don't. Right? And again, Akali doesn't push very fast, as we're aware. Right? So
yeah,
we push this wave. We can see this wave's coming. And so I get you might want to stay on this wave. Not a horrible, you could want that. That's fine, whatever. But right now, we're 6 minutes into the game. We haven't really done anything. Our teammates look rather potentially gankable here. We can look for a potential gank opportunity here, or even just hover, right? It's not even necessarily about always fully roaming every single time you look for an opportunity. But here again, now you can do it here, right? This is fine too. We push one more wave, then we go. But we need to be utilizing the fact that the lane is pushed in some way. If you want to squeeze a plate out of it, I don't really hate the decision here. But to me, you can create a much bigger advantage by actually getting some amount of roaming off. So here again, you saw an opportunity to take 300 gold. I'm not going to fault you for it. I don't think that's a bad choice at all, because Fizz is pretty good at pushing turrets. But I just want us to keep in mind that there's a lot more opportunities to roam that we're not really taking advantage of, which can kind of open the game up a lot more. And then again, I don't think this trade opportunity... Do you know why it doesn't make sense to trade her right now, or no?
No.
She just recalled. You didn't. She's stronger than you, because she spent her gold. I don't know the exact items right now, because obviously we can't see it. But she just spent her gold, so she's naturally going to be stronger than you. You want to recall because we've been on the map for a little bit. So now she's trading with us really hard. So that's, again, another reason why it's good if she recalls in a situation like she did here, like a little bit ago, right? She recalled, this is a timer where now we have to do one of two things. We either have to use this time to roam, because then we can recall after the roam, and then we get to spend our gold, or we recall to match her so we're not at a disadvantage. But now she's able to trade with us really well. And also, you never really have an all-in opportunity on her. So again, since you squeeze this gold out, it's fine if you just recall after. But it's like we don't need to trade now that we have all this unspent gold, because we could just be trading with her once we get stronger anyway. Like, there's no real reason you couldn't just recall and then do the same thing. Because she's maybe going to get 1 plate max out of it, which you got 2, so you're still happy with that trade. Instead, now we're playing at a disadvantage, so that's kind of why. And again, you all in her, right, without our item. And so let's just look at it. Do we think we kill if we spent over... We're probably over 1,000 gold. Do we think we kill? No, probably not, but she's much lower, and it gives us a much better chance of killing. So if we look at it, the items probably didn't make a difference there, unless you would have had a full item, which I don't know if you did. I don't know if we can see what you buy.
Yeah, you can, but I don't think I have.
No, look.
No, I don't.
Look.
Oh, okay.
Look here. That's Lichbane, right? That's full. That's what you what you would have had. And you bought Amplify. So you had over 500 additional gold after that. Because you didn't get any gold from this play here. And so that probably is a killing, honestly, now. Like, if it's a full bot item that we're getting from that. And so that's just what I'm saying, right? That's why we don't want to be trading on these types of times, because your champion's all about being able to one-shot. Obviously, it's going to be really hard to one-shot if you're behind the curve in terms of itemization. So that's why keeping in mind those certain back timers is really important for these like kind of angles to fight and whatever. And then here, I don't love this roam as much because you go here, which again, she's recalling, right? This is going to be a good timer for us to go on the wave first. And then we can roam right after. The reason it makes sense to go on the wave first and then roam is because now you get an advantage no matter what decision Akali makes. Because one of two things happens. Either this wave goes under her tower and she decides to roam, in which case she loses 200 gold and you gain 200 gold, from the wave. And so that's a net 400 gold from you. That's over a kill's worth of gold, right? Now, say that she goes straight to the wave. Well, that wave's under her turret. You already pushed the wave. You have no reason to be there. You're not losing anything. That's just neutral. That's 200 gold to each person. But then you now are able to rotate while she's stuck here clearing. So either way, you create yourself an advantage to be able to rotate or to get additional gold. But if we look at it here, what happens? You rotate. If she wanted, she goes and denies you this gold. And then you at least lose that gold, which again is the net 400, as we said, but in her direction. And now if you don't get a kill out of this, you're not getting that value, right? So either way, it's kind of not as beneficial. And now, because she does respond to topside here, you're weaker than her again because she spent gold. Now here, it's kind of fine because you haven't spent that much gold. But you can just see how instead of having a guaranteed advantage, we're just having a chance of having an advantage. And it still works out here. It's fine. But it's just not guaranteed in those types of things. Like what we're trying to do is we're trying to create habits that will work in the long run so that we can climb in ranked, not ones that might just work in an individual game. And so those things are a lot more consistent decisions that work a lot more often. And then here again, target priority, as we said, Galio has a magic shield and he's very tanky. Why wouldn't we go here, right? Just makes more sense to go on Misfortune. We'd get way more damage off. Instead, we tickled him a little bit. So that's another thing. And then again, that mid wave is still there, right? So even though Akali didn't respond properly, you've lost 2 minions currently. And so that's 100 gold that you lost. Now it's fine because in terms of this specific situation, it worked out okay. But in a lot of situations, if the enemy denied you all this gold, like that'd be a really problematic situation to be in. And then again, you very often go for a turret, kind of hoping that nobody's going to be there, even though we should expect most likely someone's going to be there, right? Like you're like, oh, there's a wave there. I want to get that turret because if they're not there, I'm really happy I get the turret. But if we look at the circumstance here, when you decide to go for this turret, you had a fight 20 seconds ago. Like from where you go, everyone's respawned at this point. We would expect most likely someone's there, right? People usually gravitate towards mid lane. Pretty likely they're there. Now, if they're not there, that's great, but the risk reward doesn't really make sense because there's a very high likelihood someone does respawn by the time you're able to go there.
Yeah.
It allows you to probably die when you could just be going side lane. Like again, you could use the time that lane is pushing to go top side again, right? And now you would respond to this top side. You wouldn't be losing that turret that you're currently losing because you'd be there, you'd be able to deny the wave. So it's just a lot more about once the wave is gone from a lane, go somewhere else and play around that wave. And then once that wave's gone, you go back. It's kind of like you go back and forth. You're creating so much more gold for yourself. You're denying turrets. And then once you actually win a fight or you kill someone, that's the timer to take a mid turret. Because side lane turrets, they're a lot safer because, obviously any one on the map can only be at most like half of the distance away from mid, right? Because it's in the middle. But obviously, top side, people could be all the way over on bot side. So it's just a lot safer, a lot easier to take. You have a lot more ways to escape, that type of thing. So that's why generally, again, where should you be right now? Top lane, right?
Top lane, yeah.
So
trying to use that ult.
Yeah. But you can kind of see, again, you're just here. What really happens? Nothing. You don't even get the gold from this. So you legitimately, you get 65 gold. You'd be getting way more gold there. It's we already explained the situation, but we can see it's present in multiple of your games. And then we target the Galio again, which doesn't really make the most sense to blow everything on Galio. Now, like here, if you saw an angle to kill Galio, it's fine, but the way you would approach it is different. So you wouldn't E so early because you're so far away, you have no way out. But if you waited, you walked up here, and then say somehow you were able to just close the distance through walking, then you could third ability behind and Q back, and that's fine. But instead, you're putting yourself in a position where this is everything, right? You used everything you have to go on him. You have nothing to get out. And so do you really think you're going to one-shot a 60% health Galio whose passive makes him really good against magic damage champions, who has multiple forms of CC? Most likely not, right? And even if you do, you have nothing else. You're about to get a Mumu ulted. Like, there's no real upside to this play. Now, say that instead you tried to find a flank angle to go onto the Misfortune, or again, you did the third ability backward, right? You have a lot of different ways to respond to the situation, and your team's also not even all here, so like fighting this hard doesn't even make that much sense. Now, you get pretty much the best case scenario possible, where they don't respond at all, and the best case scenario results in you still taking a bunch of damage, you doing nothing after that kill, them getting the dragon. Like, that's the best thing that could have possibly happened to us, and it's still not really positive. And then we end up dying. That's kind of separate, but yeah. That all kind of makes sense though about like how you should be approaching these fights. And
Yes, 100%.
okay, cool.
Again, like just not thinking like what's gonna happen after I use my abilities. Just like going all in with the abilities without really thinking of cooldowns
And again, where should you be right now? Where should you be walking?
upside.
Yeah,
Top lane.
Exactly. So again, I just want you to ask yourself every single time that you walk out of base, where should I be? That's all you have to do. Because again, a lot of these things, the only real reason you don't do them is because you're not actively thinking about them. It's not even that you don't know what you should do. And so again, we go mid here, we end up just losing another fight in mid lane because we're behind, and then same thing, we end up going bot. I'm assuming you probably had a possibility of killing him here.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just missed your third ability, so I don't mind even going for this. It looked like a kill angle, you just slightly misplay. That's total. Like, I have no problem with that type of mistake. That's one that I'm totally fine with and is going to happen. It's more the ones where you're in the wrong part of the map that are the ones we more want to focus on fixing. And then again, you should be bot side or top side. Literally doesn't matter, but just one or the other, right? Both of the side lanes at this point would be beneficial.
Yeah.
And we can just see.
There's also this.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, it was irrelevant. What were you saying?
No, I was saying that there's a lot of times where the team panics and starts saying like you're not helping in the team fights, and then you get like you start thinking like, oh fuck, I'm screwing up because then they're losing the team fights, and it sounds like you're not participating, and that's the reason why the team fights are being lost. So you I start going to the team fights just to like support the team, quote unquote, because they're like flaming on the chat like, where are you? Why are you not here?
Yeah.
You know, and that happens a lot in these like low elo games, and yeah, so it makes it harder to like have a clear head and think strategically like, okay, this is what I'm gonna do. This is like what I should be doing.
No, and that does happen even in higher elos. The Fizz player I've told you about, he plays on side lane really hard, and he is not. It's not uncommon that he goes like say 1 or 2 in like 5 early game, because if a game goes bad at the start for him, he'll start side laning and getting a bunch of gold. So he'll be 2 and 5, but he'll have more gold than nearly everyone else in the game. And then late game, because he's really good at his champion, which obviously comes with time, he'll get like a triple pop off and carry the late game, and he'll end the game like 13 and 9, but he'll have hard carried. And I'm not saying this is going to happen every time, but there's a lot of times where the early game goes bad or something happens, and you still are able to get gold on side lane and create that like it's basically just you're guaranteeing that you're going to be strong every game rather than just hoping that you end up winning all the fights. But the other thing is you can push sides really quick. Like, that's the thing, your wave clear is really good. And so you go side lane, you wave clear, and I know you know this again, but you go side lane, you wave clear, all you're doing, it takes 10 seconds. You're not like wasting much time. And even here again, say you'd go bot side, that's where the objective is. So you're still going to be able to go there right after. It's not like you're wasting a bunch of time. You're still going to be able to help in these fights. And then if you do, in some situations you need to go right away, and those are going to be when it's a key objective. So if Soul is spawning in 15 seconds, right, or Elder, or, you know, there's a Baron that could potentially be fought over, well, then in these cases, it's when you can kind of skip the side lane part at certain times and be okay with that. But a lot of times you're doing it even when there's no objective up or there's no real purpose of it. And so those are more when it's a really big issue. So that's something to keep in mind. And then again, we can see the exact same mistake you made before on Baron, where you use your third ability and you don't zone, you don't do anything, and now Amumu could potentially just wipe you guys here. Because again, if we think about it, Amumu has really good, you know, AoE damage. If we all group into the Baron pit against their jungler, I think it's probably about to happen. We're pretty much going to see exactly. Maybe it works out. It depends if he steals or not. He does steal. So again, had we just been zoning, I mean, at the very least, you're going to get more damage off one of them. Honestly, I think you guys would have lost this anyway because it just didn't really make sense to approach the Baron like this. But yeah, you just got to be zoning the Barons a lot more. And if you are going to hit the Baron, just don't use your third ability, because your third ability allows you to escape a lot easier. But when you don't have it, you take a lot more damage. You just, you know, pretty obvious. But yeah, so that's kind of probably where the game pretty much ends. I'm assuming. Go into one more fight. Let's look at the target priority here again. Who do we target? We target Akali, but he kind of jukes us. I guess it's not the end of the world, honestly. Yeah, and then I assume the fight's just over. But yeah, I just assumed they end here. But yeah, that wasn't really your fault, like the end play there. That's kind of just, it is what it is. So now I'm just going to write notes out, and then these notes are like the more general things I want you to keep in mind for approaching games. And I would say when you're trying to get better at the game in general, choose maybe 1 to 3 of these things to work on at a time. Don't work on all of them because it's a little overwhelming and difficult to actually properly, improve on 10 things at once. So choose those, go into the, a day or 2 or however many days you feel like it takes. Only thinking about that, autopilot every other part of your gameplay. Just focus on that. And then, once you feel like you built it as a habit, go into the next things. So starting off, we'll just go through the lane phase first. So first thing is play more for prio in even matchups and play harder around level advantage. Second,
prio you would get by managing the wave, right? Like being smart about when to like use your abilities on minions.
Yeah, prio is generally gotten by pushing the wave harder, which usually means hitting your third ability on minions and a champion at the same time, for example. Because that'll push quicker, obviously. So like sometimes keeping in mind, you don't really want to trade him when he's outside, or you could just sometimes your third ability could either trade directly on top of someone on minions, or you could do it on the side. Try to get it onto those minions, for example, or using your second ability reset to get prio, because you can push a lot faster if you get the resets on it. But yeah, generally it's about proper wave management, which usually in matchups that aren't that scary would mean that you're hitting the wave harder initially, so that your wave is a little bit healthier than their wave, so that you can kill it first. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, that's the general thing. Just utilize prio, and then trade around your level advantages, and then try to get better value from. When I say E and Q and W, what that means or no?
Yeah, it's
Third
first,
ability.
second, and third ability.
Okay,
Yeah.
I just want to make sure. So try to get better value from your E by blocking an enemy spell, such as Akali Q. That's not how you spell Akali, but Akali Q. Things like that. If you get better value from that, you can make harder trades in lane. A lot of times you're using your third ability as an engage tool, which again, when I watch this really good Fizz player play, most of the times the way that he plays when he goes for his all-in combo is either he'll third ability behind and then Q out, or he'll Q in and then third ability so that he can kind of have a way to get out. He'll be using these spells a lot more strategically, where you're kind of just using them like, oh, I'm going to go try to kill this person that's in front of me. I don't really think about what's going to happen after that first person dies, that type of thing. So keeping in mind those types of value, just general spell usage. Also,
does this guy have a YouTube channel so I can look at his gameplay?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I'll look up to see if he does, but I'm pretty sure he doesn't. He's just a one trick I see a lot. Really good on the champion.
Okay.
And also Ken also click W and then Q. And as you Q, the W damage will go off. Does that make sense how I type it like that or no?
Yeah, 100%. Okay. It's like it takes the damage.
Yeah. So yeah, you can try that out. That's not the max damage combo, because obviously if you auto reset, you know what an auto reset is?
Yeah, when you hit and then immediately use the ability.
So obviously you get slightly more damage if you auto reset with your W, but this is obviously way more consistent and quick because you're just getting it straight through. So that's something you a lot of times can do. But yeah, just keep that in mind.
Yeah, and you can also then use third and jump on them and then get a lot more damage.
Yeah, or you third ability. You either WQ and then you E, or you could E first and then again do the WQ to go back, right? To go behind them.
Yeah.
You go behind them with their E. Yeah, you get it. Lane phase after that, really important thing as well is play better around item spikes. So I'll just write it this way. For example, look to recall. Look to crash third wave and recall for mana boots, then look for all in, rather than all in on no item, basically. So just like
Yeah,
item
yeah,
spikes, just in general. So just generally.
yeah. This is a really bad habit that I realize I acquired, and it's
Yeah.
now that you say it, it like makes no sense.
And sometimes, like, again, how if you play, like, you played a lot of Fizz, right? Like, you're pretty.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
So
have like 1,500 games.
okay. So like you most of the time will know if you kill. So sometimes you haven't bought your gold or you haven't spent your gold, but you know you're gonna one shot him anyway. Well then, go and one shot him. Like, obviously it just depends on the situation. But at this point, because you played 1,500 games, you should know the damage most of the time, and so you should utilize that, like, knowledge that you have of your champion to know when you can actually all in people or if you need to recall. But yeah, that's probably the main. Those are the main early game things. Then going to the later game is going to relate a lot to side laning. So basically, every time that recall, ask yourself where you should walk out base, and then usually this is going to mean if our team is mid, we can cover side lane. Oftentimes, we want the side lane on the same side of the next key objective.
Mm-hmm.
However, if we are very behind, we can side lane on same or on opposite side of the next key objective, with the goal of dragging an enemy to us and pushing their turrets. Because again, you push turrets very quick. And then also something to keep in mind on side lane. On side lane, deaths don't really matter if no objective is up soon. So unless this depends, right? And I'm gonna trust that you can figure out the specific situations. But like, obviously, if you are 10-0 and you have a shutdown that's worth 1,000 gold, this is different. But if you're like, 2-3, or you're, maybe 4-2, you're worth a little gold, but you're not anything crazy, or maybe you're 0-3, who knows? In those types of situations, if you die on a side lane, we don't really care at the end of the day if nothing happens after your death, because all that they're really getting then is like 300 gold, 400 gold from killing you. That's not really the end of the world, and you're getting that gold from the side lane, so you're getting, a couple hundred gold at least, so you're not really losing out on a lot. But obviously, if an Elder is spawning in 10 seconds, well, then you dying there is going to be pretty troll. But just in general, just try to utilize sides, try to get a lot.
Sorry, can you say that again?
If you die 10 seconds before Elder, then it's going to be really bad. Yeah, obviously.
Of course. Yeah.
So yeah, that's just the type of thing to keep in mind. Like, understand, not every side lane death is bad. It's totally okay to die on side lane, and your champion's really good at trading 1-for-1. So like, again, imagine you go to a top lane, side lane, and say there's no objective for the next minute, and someone on the enemy team responds to you who's pretty squishy. You get one wave, and then you kill them after, but you die to them. So you trade evenly, but you got a wave. That's very positive. Worst case scenario, you got a wave, you die, you're only going down like 100 gold because you got 200 from the wave, you die for 300, that type of thing. So just keep in mind that side lane understanding, and just generally look to side lane very frequently after the first 5 minutes of the game, and just try to, you're going to figure some of these things out yourself by making the mistakes on the side lane. So it's totally okay to make some of those mistakes to kind of like figure out that type of thing. And then just generally, after pushing a wave, look to move rather than staying in lane. And this is going to depend, right? Sometimes you need to stay in your lane. Again, we'll trust you to figure out super specifics because I can't describe every scenario to you right now. But after you push that wave, right, look to recall, or look to either recall for your gold or to roam to help your team. Just generally, when there's not a wave in the lane, you go somewhere else. Once the wave comes back, you go back, that type of thing. Right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay. Trying to think if there's anything else we spoke about. I think those are most of the main things. Do you have any other questions or anything we talk about that you want me to write down?
No, that's okay. I think this is a lot to work on already.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Then I'll send these to you, and I'll see you later.